going on, Bengals fans? Stone Shields on hand for another edition of Bengals Breakdown. And on today's show, we're going to be discussing the Cincinnati Bengals playoff chances here in 2024. I know I came on and said that this game this past week against the Los Angeles Chargers felt like a must-win game, which I still stand by that. It did feel like a must-win game, but technically the Bengals still have some life. So we're going to be diving in just some playoff scenarios here on today's show, so make sure you stick around for that. Bengals might have a better chance at squeaking in than maybe you thought originally. So we're going to dive into all of that here on today's show. But make sure you guys share today's video if you have not done so for me already. Share it on any form of social media, any platform, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you name it. The bosses said we got to get our shares numbers up here throughout the month of November. And we really want to finish strong here as we got about 8 or so days left in the month. And obviously just trying to grow what we are doing here at Bengals Breakdown. I know there's a ton of Bengals fans out there that aren't necessarily tapped into what we're doing here at Bengals Breakdown. We're trying to change that and, of course, continue to grow as a channel. So help me out and share today's video for me right now. Here's what Cincinnati has remaining on the schedule. 6 games left. The Bengals, of course, on bye this week. Got to play those Pittsburgh Steelers twice. Those are going to be really critical matchups for this Cincinnati Bengals football team. Pittsburgh, of course, only has 2 losses on the season. By the way, we are filming this prior to Thursday Night Football, Steelers and Browns. This video is going out on Friday. We're filming it here Thursday evening, so just make sure you understand that as we progress throughout today's show. But you see a lot of winnable games here for the Cincinnati Bengals coming down the home stretch. Believe it or not, they're actually favored in 5 of these games as of now. The only game they are not favored in is that Week 18 matchup, which is on the road against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So there's going to be some opportunity here for the Bengals to create some momentum for themselves, and obviously that's going to be really critical if they do indeed want to make a run. If they win out, they're probably almost a guarantee to get into the playoffs. If you lose one, that certainly goes down a lot. But if you can rattle off 6 victories in a row here coming off this bye, something, by the way, you have done in the past, which we'll hit on at the end of today's show, you're in a position to potentially make some noise. Obviously, it is all about the execution, and it all starts coming off the bye with a massive game at home against a division rival in the Pittsburgh Steelers. Leads us to the pinned comment of today's video. Will the Bengals make the playoffs? I've asked you guys this several times throughout the season here in the bye week. Wanted to bring it to your attention once again. Will Cincinnati make the playoffs? Type P for playoffs or H for home. It is the pinned comment of today's video. So if that ad comes here on YouTube, that's totally fine. Take advantage of it. Get down in the comment section and let us know what you think. By the way, doing some solo producing here on today's show. So if you see me look down or whatever the case may be, just trying to do multiple things here at once as we progress through today's show. Here is what the playoff picture looks like currently. Again, the Steelers and the Browns, as of filming, have not played. But by the time you watch this, they will have played. I'm going to assume the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be able to take care of business in that game. To be honest with you, I'm rooting for the Cleveland Browns. Can't believe that just came out of my mouth. Really despise both of these clubs, but if, Cleveland could knock Pittsburgh off, bring them back down to, the earth a little bit after their big win against Baltimore, I am totally here for that. But right now, if you're the Cincinnati Bengals, you're really only locked in on that number 7 seed. I think pretty much anything else at this point most likely is not going to happen. Crazier things have happened. Certainly some teams could go on losing streaks. More opportunities could open up for you. But I think it's that 7 seed that you're really focused on right now if you are Zac Taylor, Joe Burrow, and company, and those Bengals. And, of course, that 7 seed as of now is the Denver Broncos. We're going to be spending some time talking about right here on today's show. Broncos had a really massive win last week against the Atlanta Falcons. Absolutely just blew them out of the stadium. And Bengals kind of caught a break the week prior when Kansas City was able to block that field goal, and Denver was able to lose that game. So that kind of makes things a little bit more manageable for the Cincinnati Bengals. But I personally think this is the most dangerous team you have to worry about for that 7 seed. Obviously, they have the best record out of any of the teams that we're going to talk about here on today's show. I think they are the best coach team. I don't really have any disputes about that. I think Sean Payton still is one of the best coaches in the National Football League, and I think Bo Nix is really playing the position at a pretty high level, particularly for a rookie. And taking a look at their docket there going forward, they as well have a bye, but they play the Raiders this week and then the Browns, the Colts. So they've got some weak opponents that you would think they're going to be able to take advantage of. That last game against Kansas City is going to be critical, assuming that Kansas City doesn't have the 1 seed locked up at that point, which Buffalo helped us out, got a victory last week. So hopefully the Chiefs need to go out and win that game and have Patrick Mahomes and all their starters playing. That second to last week, you're going to have an opportunity to host those Denver Broncos. And if you take care of business against the Steelers, win some other games as well, that could potentially be a massive game for you as you look to make a last-minute push into the postseason. But right now, playoff probability for the Denver Broncos, 60% according to NFL.com. I think that's definitely the team all of us as Bengals fans need to be keyed in on and rooting against, to be completely honest with you, those Denver Broncos. Second team we will talk about here on today's show is the Indianapolis Colts. They've got some turmoil going on in Indianapolis. Of course, they went with second-year quarterback Anthony Richardson for a while, and then he subbed himself out of a game. It was kind of a whole thing, right? Which, I mean, I can't imagine being a quarterback being fully healthy and subbing yourself out of the game, but that's what happened. They went to Joe Flacco for a little bit. Now they are back with Anthony Richardson. He really had maybe the best game of his career, probably against the New York Jets last week. That kind of kept them alive in the playoff race for Shane Steichen's Indianapolis Colts. Also, taking a look at their schedule, they've got some really favorable matchups. Really, top to bottom, the AFC is pretty weak, which is kind of hard to wrap your head around, assuming kind of in years past there's been so much star power and firepower in the AFC. But taking a look at some of their opponents here, they got the Lions this week, so you would think they're going to lose that game, right? But beyond that, New England, a bye. That Denver game is going to be critical. See who takes a step ahead of the other as far as who wins that game. But then you finish with the Titans, Giants, and Jaguars. I mean, that could potentially be 3 easy wins for you to end the season. So Indianapolis is another team that you need to be focused on if you're the Cincinnati Bengals. It's unfortunate that you're at this spot of the year where you need to be worrying about what other teams are doing and not just taking care of your own business. Obviously not a spot you want to be in going forward, but that's just kind of what reality is right now. Again, a 31% playoff probability rate for the Indianapolis Colts per NFL.com. To me, taking a look at that schedule, assuming they're not going to have a big win this week against the Lions, I'm not too worried about the Colts. I think the Bengals will find a way to get past them in the standings. It's really more the Broncos that I am keyed in on at this point. One more team to talk about in a moment, but first, I want to give a shout-out to our friends over at PrizePicks, because PrizePicks, of course, is the sponsor of our show today here on Bengals Breakdown. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. PrizePicks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, PrizePicks keeps your lineup live. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. That's what the Chat Sports crew kind of threw together as far as PrizePicks slate goes for this weekend's contest. We're going with the more than for the Christian McCaffrey rushing yards. Obviously, anytime you got Christian McCaffrey out there on the football field, you really feel like there's an ability for him to put up some good numbers. Then going with the less than for the Christian Watson receiving yards on Sunday against those San Francisco 49ers. That's what some people here at Chat Sports threw together. So if you would like to tail that, a lot of people here at Chat Sports think that is going to be successful. They also have the flex play, which is not this play that you're looking at. This is a power play. But a flex play means you can essentially still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. It's PrizePicks. Run your game. This last team that we are going to touch on here is the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins, of course, really started out the season rough, right? They lost Tua. He went down for several weeks with another concussion that he suffered. But really, ever since Tua's come back, that offense has come back alive for Mike McDaniel, right? Keep in mind, this is a Miami Dolphins team that most people thought was going to contend for the AFC Championship coming into the season. Maybe it wasn't you that thought that, but there were some pretty noteworthy people that thought this Dolphins team was going to have a really good year. Ever since Tua has come back, they've really started to play a lot better offensively. And in the past couple of weeks, it's resulted in some wins for them. Again, playing Vegas, that's not like a massive win, but boy, they looked really, really good and really, really potent on offense. Their schedule looks a lot more difficult than the schedules of Denver and Indianapolis. So they're going to have some challenging games here, but I think this is the most talented team that is going up, for that last spot in the AFC wild card, but they're kind of a little bit too far back, sitting there at 4-6. Very similar to the Bengals are right now at 4-7. Of course, a little bit better than where the Bengals are, but I just think Denver and Indianapolis have easier schedules. But like I said, I think this is the best team. I just don't know if their path necessarily is as easy given some of the opponents that they have to face. Green Bay, Houston, San Francisco, all challenging teams that they'll have to deal with down the stretch. But I think they got the best head coach out of all of these teams, and I think they got the best quarterback as well. Of course, not talking about the Bengals, just the Colts and the Broncos. So don't be surprised if Miami makes a run as well. So of those three teams that we just talked about, three teams that the Bengals are competing for that last wild card spot with, which team concerns you the most? Let me know in the comment section of today's video. Type B for the Broncos, C for the Colts, or D for the Dolphins. Be honest with us. I think for me, it's pretty much the Denver Broncos, despite the fact that I think the Dolphins are the best team out of those three. But the Broncos have the edge right now with where their record sits right now, as well as kind of a more of a favorable schedule. But get down in the comment section and let us know what you think. Before we get out of here, do want to touch on this. It's a very, I think, powerful quote from Zac Taylor that he had during his press conference, of course, leading into this bye week after the Bengals took on the Los Angeles Chargers on Sunday night and lost. Here's what Taylor said. He said, "I can see that something special can still be there. People may not believe it. That's okay. I get that. But I've seen this group do some really good things before, and I still believe that we can get this thing turned around and do that. We've got to find a way to create some momentum for ourselves." And Zac Taylor is still remaining optimistic, which I admire and respect about Zac Taylor. But I think this, in large part, the graphic you are looking at right now, is why Taylor still has so much optimism. Let me take you back in time to some much better days in 2022, much better days when it comes to Cincinnati Bengals football. That is, look at all those W's that they rattled off post-bye. Remember, they went into that bye, I believe, with a 5-4 record. They just went to the Super Bowl the previous year, and people were kind of sitting there like, oh, what's this Cincinnati Bengals team doing? Well, guess what? They got hot after the bye. Look at all those victories you see right there. 9 victories in a row coming off that bye. And guess who it started with? Oh, the Pittsburgh Steelers, same team that you're playing coming off the bye this year as well. And by the way, there's no Week 17 on here because that was the Damar Hamlin game, which obviously thankful that all things worked out with Damar Hamlin. But by the way, they were going to win that game too. So this is a team that got insanely hot. Look at all those W's across the board. It's something that they have done in the past. Now, I know what you're thinking, Stone. The defense was much better back in 2022. Clearly, I get that. I absolutely agree with that 100%. But this is a team that's gotten really hot in the past, and don't necessarily count them out at this point. Was walking into work here today. It was a little nippy. Some snow was falling. It's 30-some degrees, and I was just kind of thinking, oh, this is the kind of weather that Cincinnati really plays their best in. This feels like December football. This is when Zac Taylor and Joe Burrow really rise to the occasion and play and coach their best football. So there's still some reason to be excited, but they got to be pretty much nearly flawless coming in the stretch. And if they win out, I think they're pretty much in. You lose one, makes it a lot more difficult. But again, it's a team that's gotten hot before in the past. I think there's some people, Coach Taylor specifically, kind of hanging on to that hope that they'll be able to do that again here in 2024. We'll see. The defense, obviously a liability, and certainly an area of the team that has held them back to this point. Bengals, of course, are on bye, so no watch party this weekend on Sunday, but we still will have a video for you on Sunday. So make sure you hang out with us for that video. Don't miss out on that video. Make sure you hit that sub button, youtube.com YouTube.com/BengalsTV.